Hello, welcome to the Swatches live stream. I'm Clint, and this is Diana. And in this episode, we are going to be reviewing the submissions, concepts for the Space Marine Art Challenge. We are going to spend a couple of minutes, though, here at the beginning, just going over some announcements while everybody joins in the stream and gets situated. This is a live stream, so if there is something going on with the audio or the visual that's an issue, please let us know.
Covered? Is that happening?
Let's see. I don't know why there's a logo.
Can't tell. Can someone confirm if there's a logo over our video? I don't know if there's.
Oh, I think that's just from our viewing, like it moves. If that's
Okay.
there. Okay. All right, so let's hit on some announcements and then we will jump into the art reviews. In those reviews, we will be giving feedback as to how to improve the images, as well as helping choose which versions of the images they should be going with for the final. So with the announcements, November 27th is the big day for swatches this month. That is when we are going to be launching the winter class signups for the courses that have feedback, as well as the Black Friday sale. We'll be having a site-wide 25% off sale that is going to be for both self-study and for the courses with feedback.
But it starts on Wednesday. It says Friday, but you know.
Yeah, it's Black Friday, but it's 27th. So over here is the course lineup. We are having digital painting basics. Best one if you have not learned how to use Photoshop and want to get into digital painting. Form rendering is the new class Diana is coming out with about doing volumetric painting, thinking in 3D. It is the follow-up to the form drawing class, but now taking it on to the painting phase. Intro to Stylization by Guillermin. Perfect for anyone going into a Hearthstone, Warcraft, sort of League of Legends stylization approach. Feedback will be offered on that one. We thought maybe not due to his schedule, but he's going to be able to work it in. Material rendering is going to be offered with feedback again for this winter term. All of these courses are going to get started at the beginning of January. Character illustration, my new course on how to do D&D Pathfinder style characters, is going to be available with feedback, and fantasy illustration as well. Now there are some other classes that do not have feedback that are listed on the website. You can check those out. We have added email sign-up, so if you want to stay in the loop with the classes, events, sales, any of that, you can sign up on swatchesacademy.com. Email sign-up is in the footer down there, and we'll keep you in the loop. There will be no more consultations until the new year. We've booked up our schedule. It was a little limited between now and the new year with the holiday stuff, but it is sold out until the new year. You can check back then.
Yeah, we'll reopen it in January.
Yes.
So if you really wanted an appointment, some people emailed about it. Don't worry, you can book them in January.
Yep. We will not be running a group mentorship class for this winter term. However, if you do have a private group, such as your art team from your company or a corporate training, we are offering those. We're running some right now, actually. If you want details on that, just check with us, email us, and we will contact you and work out some details on that. All right, anything else? Are we missing anything?
I think that was everything. Unless anybody in the chat has any questions about these things, you can post them now, or we can circle back to that at the end if need be.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk about the art challenge. The artists were tasked with illustrating 3 concepts for a image based on Warhammer 40,000's Space Marine. Now we provided them 3 descriptions of scenes to do, and they had to choose one of those to base it off of. They were very light descriptions. They were only a sentence or two, but it gave some framework, and that's what they were basing their images on. We will not be choosing any favorites right now, but we will be awarding 3 winners, the top 3, in 2 weeks when we take a look at the finals. So far, they've had 2 weeks to create their concepts. There also was 10 tickets, but we only have 7 submissions.
So everybody's chance of winning has substantially increased.
Yes.
But for those of you that were kind of disappointed that you didn't get a ticket, I think what we're going to do in the next challenge is we're just going to have a few more, like 12 or 15, just in case, some people drop out and other people, wanted to participate. We'll have a few more tickets.
Yes. Okay, no particular order here, just however they came up alphabetically. We're going to start over here with Hannah and her piece.
Hannah, are you in the chat? Let us know if you're watching.
Yeah, if anyone is the artist that we're looking at their stuff and you are here in the live chat on YouTube, feel free to type in there if you have a comment or a question.
Before we start, I just want to thank all the participants and everyone that bought a ticket and made this stream possible and wanted to participate in this challenge. And yeah, I was going to go over what the prizes are and kind of what the expectations. So we didn't really set any hard rules on this. The expectation is that people follow the outline of the challenge. That is, they base their image on the prompts given, and also that they participate in each stage of the challenge. So it's expected that they would participate in this concept sketch part and also in the final part. So if someone submits for this stage and doesn't submit a final, they're not going to be considered for a prize. And if someone submits, for a final but not the sketch phase, the same thing. So you kind of have to participate in the whole challenge in order to, for it to make sense to give out a prize. And also there's an expectation, to follow the brief and the specs, if it's a horizontal image, if it's a vertical image, that sort of thing. But that's about it for rules. The prizes are for the first place winner, the Space Marine 2 video game. So on a platform of their choice, we will award them that game. For the second and third place winners, they will get a free self-study course from Academy of their choice. So whatever course that they want to take, they'll receive that.
Yeah, we will also have more challenges coming up in the future. We were actually chatting about that the other day. We're going to be mentioning that in the December
newsletter. So we've already come up with some themes, and we're going to put it on the Discord. And if you want to join the Discord, that's swatchesdiscord.com. You can vote on what the theme of the next challenge is going to be.
So for this piece, Hannah, you selected the enemies prompt, which was a space marine facing off against a Tyranid alien character. And this is a good example of the right amount of variation for a single prompt. So you still have the 2 characters, but we're trying one like from over the shoulder, from down low, from behind one, behind the other. One's more action, one's based on a sword, one's based on a gun. This sort of variation is really nice to see. And if we were talking in a more professional realm, I think an art director would enjoy having the variety to choose from as well.
They're also really clean and understandable, which is nice.
May have been good to have just some simple colors blocked in to give you some idea of, what you had intention there. But black and white with some simple shading is also good. Now let's talk about some things that...
Oh, Hannah is here. Hi, Hannah.
Yeah. Hey, Hannah. Let's talk about some things that are working and some things that could be addressed and kind of our thought process about which one we think is the strongest. Now, first up, we've got to talk about what the prompt is about, what is featuring. The main thing about the scene should be the Space Marine. And that is why number 1 is like a pretty well designed image, but it doesn't really showcase the Marine as much as we would want for something about them. Unfortunately, it's relegated the Space Marine to kind of like an over the shoulder view. So that makes the focus more on the Tyranid, because that's what we have a full view of. That's what the characters are looking at, and that's what takes up most of the space on the canvas. So it's a valid option to consider, but not fulfilling the prompt as well as some of the others. Okay, number two, this is a really dynamic scene as far as what you're trying to do with the alien down here close to camera, this sort of, I don't want to say forced perspective, but heightened perspective and foreshortening of the leg coming up towards camera, the gun pointing. And something like this can work, but there's a couple of things to pulling this off. Now, as we go forward, we're going to be talking about this sort of thing on everybody's stuff. And we're talking about it kind of like we're art teachers. We're giving like tips both on how to fulfill the brief, but also like how would you do a scene like this effectively. So that's how we're looking at this. So for this, the idea is valid, but the issues that we're getting with this particular implementation is that all of the limbs, well, 3 of the limbs, talking about arms and legs, are lost within the body shape of the character. Now, this is problematic because it's not easy to immediately register what the pose is doing. So if you were to get this same scene, if we think about this from the top view, you say that you have the camera here and the characters are posed sort of like this. This is like the Marine and this is the Tyranid. They're almost just pointing at camera. However, if you move the camera to say here, then it would pretty much resolve your problems, because all of a sudden the gun would be beyond the shape of the body. We would get some negative space between the legs. Then we'd get this head further away.
You would get a clear silhouette of what the poses are.
Yeah. So this actually reminds me of some images from League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra. I pulled off a couple that use like more of that low angle leg on someone approach, and that's the same thing. It's that camera shifted a little more to the side view so that we get a clearer read of the limbs, and sort of like the same thing over here, right? Again, we got to separate the arms and the legs from the shape of the body so we can read it. That said, this is really tricky to pull off. You really need like a 3D model or a photo reference. Like if you had a really good model of a Space Marine, you might be able to pose it and you know, draw from that or something. That said, I think 3 is probably the better bet because it's not going to require as much change, and it's a nice action scene. So over here, I think the biggest thing that you can do to get more out of this scene is actually just fill the frame with more of the characters. So we've got more view of the Tyranid than we really need to know. Like we only need to see a little bit to know what it is. I'm also just getting a lot of background back here. So I made some edits on yours. I did some edits on everyone's to show some ideas. And we could get something like this. So here, let me turn that one off first. You see, we're just scaling it up. We're scaling up the Tyranid a little bit, but we're really scaling up the Space Marine more to make them more prominent in the scene. Now, the general pose of Space Marine is working fine. We're getting that slashing motion across there. But make sure that we're staying kind of on brand with the overall proportions and armor design of the Space Marine. Because at this point, we're sort of shifting into general sci-fi, fantasy sci-fi.
Yeah, it's starting to
Yeah.
look not so much like what you'd expect a Space Marine to look like. So just keep that in mind, that it's better to stay on brand if you really want to nail the look.
Now, there's a lot of good Warhammer art out there, so you can probably glance through some of this, get some idea of what some of this armor looks like from the different angles. You could probably find some 3D models out
Yeah.
there somewhere, maybe even physical models at a store or something. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. I did a quick draw over just to kind of get an idea. They almost always have the big pack on their back that makes them feel like really top heavy, almost like an astronaut has the big thing. Shoulder pieces, maybe going a little less fancy with the outside of the shield. It's getting more like flourishy, so maybe a little more bulky with that shape. And make sure, like when we get into it, we want to see some damage, some slime or blood or something,
Debris.
yeah, coming off of the hit from the alien and dragging off the sword to really help sell that action. So we're going to suggest going here with number 3 with these sort of tweaks to it. Keeps all the same beats as you already have, but just doubles down on focusing on the right stuff and selling that Space Marine as that sort of epic warrior.
If you wanted to sell it even more, you could also do something with the Tyrannid's expression, like make him look like he just got slashed.
Yeah.
Maybe throw the head back a little bit. But it's more of like thinking, what can I do with each element to just make it 10% better, right? It's something we say a lot. So what can I do with that Tyrannid to make him just sell the image a little bit more? Don't need to do anything too drastic. We're talking about 10%. Same thing with the Space Marine. That's kind of what Clint did, right? So just thinking about it as you're going forward.
Good options there, Hannah. Looking forward to seeing what you do at the final. Okay, next up we have Toby. Toby, if you're here, let us know.
Toby is here.
He is. Okay, cool. Toby, if you got any comments, feel free to put them in. All right, so across here, okay, now Toby chose a different prompt, which was forward. It has 2 Space Marines sort of scouting or advancing ahead, and it has a crashed ship behind them. They aren't in immediate battle. They're sort of scouting ahead. Okay, now you added in some specific planet names and stuff, but that's not necessary for the, not provided in the prompt.
We don't know what it means.
And all the artists have had the opportunity to choose either any existing Marine faction or develop a faction of their own.
Yeah, if you guys know more about this universe than we do, like, we trust you. We only know very surface level stuff.
Yeah, and with these, we're just mainly looking at the overall composition, the poses, how the scene is sort of reading overall. And we're not really caring about minor things, placements of weeds and plants and like exact color tones and stuff. No. Okay, for this, all of these are a valid option to look at. Would have been nice to have less, okay, how do you say? I would suggest divvying up your time a little differently so that less time was given to full values, snow effects, brushwork, that sort of thing, and more in giving a wider variety of compositional options. So in this, they're almost all the same except for there is a few pose variations for the front guy. The rest of it's pretty much the same. So what if you could have given, like maybe this one is facing the other direction and the other guy's up higher on a rock? What if they're back to back? What if one of them's down on one knee and he's got his rifle up
Well,
and
we
looking
had
down the
some
scope?
of those military
Yeah,
type images, right? Oh yeah, you grabbed
yeah,
some
I've
there.
grabbed some. So let's take a look at some images here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll turn that on in a second. So this is a really valid thing to do, which is just go to Google and just put in like, what'd you put in, like
I googled
two
2 soldiers.
soldiers. So there.
Nothing very complicated, and I got like these photos came up not on the first page.
That is a completely valid option. You could adapt that to Space Marines and you're ready to go. Same sort of pose. One of them has them up to the eye. He's in front. He's looking one way. The other one's looking the other way, which makes sense because you're trying to cover as much space as possible with you scouting. He has his down. One standing still. One's walking forwards to catch up. You have a ship in the background, either really big or down lower behind them. You're ready to go. Okay. Now, another place that you could look is like movie scenes. How do they compose a movie scene where soldiers are doing something, where they're scouting, where they're hunting, where they're about to be engaged in battle? And there's a lot of movies to choose from. The one that just popped into my head earlier was the original Predator.
Mhm.
And so I was like, that looks like you could do something like this, right? I mean, you could just extrapolate what the rest of them
Guy
look like.
that, yeah.
Somebody standing here like this, you could do a low angle with somebody here, the other one facing off the other way behind him. And Predator itself already has like the right level of machismo. I mean, if you want to say machismo,
It's macho,
yeah.
basically.
Like the guys up here too, like something like that, with two guys standing there.
You also have some
Yeah.
good camera angles that kind of lend themselves to that feeling of the character being larger than life, being big and powerful, right? So looking at some of these shots, like these ones here, that would totally work for Space Marine type characters.
Yeah. Okay, another thing to do before you commit to doing values, shading, colors on something, on a character standing there, and this goes for everyone. This is something that we do as well, which is check the pose yourself, which is literally stand in the pose and see whether that feels natural. Because what you can do, and it's something I've certainly done before, which is you draw a couple of poses and then you start kind of swapping legs, swapping arms, swapping heads to see what works. And you can come up with something that seems reasonable, but like I tried to stand in the pose of this guy, and it feels really unnatural. Like it just
Feels awkward.
yeah, your body doesn't really want to stand like that. So that's one of those you could very quickly, before you even commit to doing any shading, just stand that way and be like, okay, actually, no, it makes way more sense if I do it like this, and your body sort of will just sort it out for you. Right. So that said, we aren't going to suggest any major changes here. I think we've got valid options here. So I sort of pushed and pulled, sort of sampled from different pieces here to make another variation. So let's just maybe, that guy looks like it was leaning forwards a little too much in the back. So I just sort of straightened him up back there. Foreground guy, let's have him facing the other way. Again, soldiers probably do that, take different directions. And he's doing this, and then a little overpaint. Okay, so I feel like his leg probably needs to go back. Since this one is going to be bending, he's going up a hill, so that one will be bent more. This one will be more straight. Then a little just, obviously this is super rough, but like making him really gruff looking, maybe his head's down a little bit, and potentially making that gun just a little bigger so we have a clearer read of the silhouette on the side. And storytelling wise, maybe we can convey the idea that they were shot down. We've got some burning coming off of the wreck, but maybe there was some scattered debris as the ship was going down. We got other
Some
little,
burning bits of
yeah,
the ship.
yeah, little debris smoldering around behind them, and that right there, that can make a nice scene.
Yeah, you don't have to go any further than that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all you need for this particular assignment.
So the winter terrain is nice. Oh, Adam's saying the format. The format that all of these have to follow is 3,000 wide by 4,000 tall in pixels, or a 3:4 ratio vertical. So that's nice. I would say just follow that. No reason to really reinvent the wheel. There are opportunities for further development, like if you want to have any stuff on the ground besides just snow, or if there's something interesting you want to do with that heel back there, that sort of thing. Okay. Thank you for the work on this one, Toby. Hopefully that's helpful for you. And we hope that you can finish this up. We'll take a look at the final. Next up is Vasilewski. If I see.
Yehore's here.
Hey.
Nice to see you too.
Okay, this one is a little different. You have done a 3D mock-up of the scene. Kind of split on that because 3D mock-up, completely valid way to figure out a fairly complex subject like a space marine and a spacecraft and stuff. That's completely valid to working all that out. Would have been nice if we had just a draw over of the 3D model and you kind of just place in what you think some of the colors would be and just kind of where the planes are, because right now we really don't have any sense of plane on the ground and what the distance is between anything.
Yeah, it's not clear where the ship is in relation to the ground or where the guys are. It's very hard. Everything is just covered up, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah. So there's some really good stuff here, but I think it really comes down to an issue of clarity.
I'm gonna ban this person. This is just nonsense. Can you do that?
Probably. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so Yore, I don't know if you modeled these or whether you found the model. I'm assuming you probably found the models somewhere. That's a lot of work to go through for this little challenge. But either way, good models to work from, 100%. Resolves a lot of the shading issues for you. Now, got some, nope, that's not, okay. So a 3D doesn't necessarily constitute a full concept because it doesn't give us all the information we really need for an illustration, particularly with the colors and how some of the other stuff is laid out with like the plants and stuff. But let's move forward with what we have. The main thing here is visual read, and that is allowing things to break from the shape of other things. Now, in the previous piece, we were looking at the limbs separating from the body shape. In the same sort of way, we have the body shapes being caught within the shape of the ship itself.
If you just take one step back, and on these two top pieces, the ship and the guys just turn into one big white mass.
Yeah.
So this is kind of why doing this all in 3D, it doesn't really help us read the image because it's just one big white shape. So we're trying to separate it mentally because visually we can't. And it's hard to know if this is going to actually be solved with the rendering or not, because we also don't know what the value scheme is. But just judging it based on where the position of all the elements is, like as we see it now, yeah, you've got elements just merging into each other.
Now going forwards, you probably intend to resolve this with lighting and values and the rest. And they do that sort of thing a lot in Warhammer. You can just add atmospherics between planes of things, and it can really separate out
Yeah, you need to do that.
different areas. So make sure you're doing that, otherwise it's going to be really difficult to read. Okay, the framing on these two are pretty good. However, this one is probably getting too close. There's not really a need to crop off one of the characters there. I would just pull out. But the second one I feel like is the one that is the most promising, that would require the least edits. So with this, we're mainly looking at allowing the shape, the silhouette, you know, of this guy to be higher than the ship. Essentially shifting the ship down so that he breaks that shape. Then we need some indication of planes here so that it can feel like there's distance between us and the ship. And like there needs to be also another plane between him and the ship, because it feels like he's really close to it, but he's got to be far enough away that he could walk through that door.
Yeah, be careful of what the scale is between your models. I don't know. It's really hard to judge from this. So remember, these guys have to be able to get in and out of that ship. So whatever, you know, distance, they have to be the right scale. I'm sure you know this, but whatever distance you place them has got to read like that. Be careful also of putting that foliage. I don't know, like, again, because we're not seeing an actual drawing, we don't know what your plan is, but I would not put that much foliage all over everything, because it just turns that whole area at the bottom and the top into like a texture.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to add some rest areas in your image.
Yeah, again, make sure you're looking, and this goes for everyone, make sure you're looking at a lot of the 40K artwork and see how this has been handled. How do they do a vegetation sort of scene and still make it a Warhammer vegetation scene?
Yeah, a good thing to keep in mind with vegetation, for anyone wondering, is to make sure that your vegetation is kind of separated into planes. So some of the plants are noticeably bigger on a closer plane, and some are noticeably medium, and some are noticeably small, you know, and maybe separate those with atmospherics.
So this is sort of doing that. I just painted out the top of the ship so that he sticks out above the ship. Just did two little rough things here to indicate there needs to be some planes there. And we don't really need the Dutch angle here. This isn't an action scene. There's no bombs going off or anything to simulate a camera shake, right? So I'd go ahead and straighten it up more, just to simplify the image. So try to move forwards with that. Make sure you're spending time doing some color studies, value studies, and working out how you're going to handle that background, the trees, all that stuff, before you just commit into the painting. But this direction should work for you.
Yeah, great job finding like such good Space Marine dolls.
Yeah,
those look really
and
good.
this are nice poses. Like this is working.
And if you made this yourself, like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Next we have Sven.
Hey Sven, I saw the Sven fan club was in the chat early.
Okay, nice concepts here. Sven is using the Victory prompt, which is a Space Marine holding a banner over one of his defeated enemies, who is an orc or one of the Dark Marines, the
Chaos Marines?
Chaos
I think they're
Marines.
called
Yeah.
Chaos Marines. I don't know. Some
Okay.
Warhammer fan's going to be really upset that we don't know these things.
We have topical knowledge of 40K.
We are
sorry.
not claiming any kind of expertise on this.
So, good variety here. They're all kind of doing the same thing, little different directions with it, different color schemes, and this is good. So, over here, this is what I consider just a really nice classic, yeah, Space Marine illustration. Nothing significant about this that needs to be changed. I think that you just have to make sure you're spending time, looking at each piece. Like maybe that arm looks a little short.
It just looks like a really good hero shot.
Yeah, really nice hero shot. Let's take a look at a couple of notes here. Now with this one, we'll just talk about a few things with each of these. For this one, it would be nice if we could just get the orc a little bit bigger, somewhere up to here. I just feel like he's almost squished to fit
I
on
know
the
you didn't
bottom.
want to feature him, which is good, but maybe just a little bit more.
No. In order to expand out the palette, but also just help hit that Warhammer vibe. Maybe some fire, some little explosions, glows of light in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I think the heavy atmosphere, very common for 40K. It's fine to have a lot of atmosphere and dust and all that stuff. Other things would be, I would suggest either going with potentially even this color scheme, if you want to go like heavy battle sort of vibe, or lean into the winter sort of aesthetic.
A little bit of snow.
Yeah, have some snow that's kind of sticking on the armor, have some fluttering bits. I'm not saying it's a blizzard. I'm just saying that there is some snow.
Not too much. You don't want to wreck it.
Yeah, and it's starting to cling particularly to the lower parts of his legs, right? I guess it would be blowing the other way if that banner is doing that, so it'd be going the other way. I was only paying
The
attention
other
to that.
way. Just imagine that those yellow lines are going in the opposite direction.
This was like maybe there's a few beams of light coming through the fog, through the
Or
snow.
maybe someone's shooting at him, some laser fire.
Yeah, you could have some lines of fire, shooting in the background, that sort of thing. So otherwise, looks good. This one can work. Currently, I think it's got too many issues compared to the other ones. So there is just perspective issues here where I feel like we're down low, but I also feel like we're at his eye level when I look at him.
He doesn't look like we're looking up at him.
Yeah. Yeah, so we would need a perspective change on that whole character. And this is getting a little confusing as to like whether it's coming towards us or away from us. So a valid thing to consider, but I just think the other two are already stronger. So I wouldn't suggest
I
reworking it.
appreciate the option, though.
Yeah. Okay, this is another classic. Some good stuff here. Let's talk about a few things that you can do to just ramp it up a little bit. This arm, we currently have the elbow going high with the hand like that. I think a more natural would be to just let the arm be here and let most of the vertical come from the upper arm bending there. And we also want to make sure that the banner is vertical or leaning away from him at the top. It's just unlikely that you would pull the top of the banner to you and have the end further away. It's just kind of a unusual way to hold something.
I would also let it go behind his head a little bit. It feels like it's avoiding him now.
Yeah, it's kind of like hovering
Not
over his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay if you have it go behind there. We just need to make sure that there's some light or shadow on it that separates out from the shape of the body. For the lower part, it would be a little more dynamic to have the legs asymmetrical. That is, one is more bent than the other one. So in my little drawing here, this leg is a little more bent because maybe that foot is up on top of something. And then this one is more straight. I feel like that's just a little more dynamic with that shape. It's also something that I saw in a number of other Warhammer poses.
Seems like just a classic pose for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So really either A or C
Mm-hmm.
are super viable choices. I don't know, do you have a preference, or I guess Sven can just choose which one?
Oh,
he
you can
prefers.
choose between those. Either one of those is quite strong. Yep.
Yeah, good job.
Anthony is up next.
I think Anthony's here too. Hi, Anthony.
Okay, Anthony also went with the enemy's prompt with the Marine and the Tyranid. And also a good assortment of different options. So I want to say that the drawings here are very nice. It's very clear what we're looking at, and I get what is going on in the scene. That's not always easy to do in a concept, but we're doing it well here. The one here on the left, this is a cool scene, but doesn't quite tell the same story as the prompt. And this is where it gets into a tricky thing with a visual story and composition. And in that, it can take a very small change to the arrangement to change the context of what it seems like that scene is about. So in this case, this no longer feels like it is a Tyranid and a Marine facing off. Now this is about a Tyranid stalking a Marine, which is similar, but that's not the same vibe, right? So that's why I say, like, this is a valid image, but it doesn't quite hit the note you'd be looking for this particular prompt. Now, the other thing is we are kind of misdirecting the viewer by having a really big face or skull facing us that he's looking at, and he is like basically positioned to attack. So that means that we are giving importance to this because he's giving importance to it. And it makes it feel like that's more of a focal point than it really has a need to be. And then we've got this sort of chain. So everything is moving their focus down to here, and then there's no payoff really, because that's not part of the
When we
equation.
arrive there, we don't understand why we're looking there.
Yeah.
So this one is not as effective as some of the other options.
Over here, this is good. I definitely get the death blow, sword, stab. It's got that sort of energy to it. Just pull out a little bit is the thing
We're
here.
cropped a little tight,
Yeah.
so it feels like we can't see enough.
I'd also want to recommend, if you go with this one, and I'm going to say that you can go with either one of these with some tweaks. So make sure that you're looking at being very particular on the body shape, armor type of the armor, because it feels like we're getting probably too narrow through the shoulders here, and maybe not wide enough with the waist. They're very, very bulky through the waist. So watch that. And yeah. So Here, we want to pull out on the seam some. Maybe this leg gets a little closer to camera. We can widen that waist out a little bit. We might need to scoot that arm out. I think we messed with that down here. Yeah. So something a little more in that line as far as the room to tell the story. And then over here, this is cool, but we need to dial it in. Right now, this arm is getting a little funky, and some of the overall pose is. This one's coming up and turning back, and then this leg is raised, and this leg is extended, and that arm is coming back at like past 90 degrees, like it's bending the other way. So we got to adjust that arm too. So the overall idea can work, but we're just pushing this pose in a little past what would be natural. So we could get something a little more like this, which is this leg is bent back up underneath him. This leg is extended. Then this arm is sort of coming forwards, right? And you could have his hands.
Feels a little more natural.
Yeah, maybe he's even got like like some sort of dagger or something in that one, right? Or you could have them, or a gun, yeah. Oh yeah, I did have a gun in there. So he could have some sort of pistol, you know, compact machine gun.
Massive gun.
Yeah, in that hand. And then again, look at this hand over here and that arm. Yeah, again, I feel like you're pushing back too far on that arm, and we might need to change the angle of that blade to make that feel a little more natural. And then with the head of this guy, consider trying to turn his head three-dimensionally so that he's looking a little more at the marine.
So we've seen this a couple of times on different people's pieces where the foreground character is just looking off to the side or somewhere else, and it doesn't really connect with the other character. So I'm not saying that he has to have his back totally to us, but if we just turn the head a little bit, right? We have a 3D model here. There we go. It's not great, but it's what we could find. So just to demonstrate kind of the angle, you see now he's looking a little bit more in that direction. And it just feels like they're engaging each other a little bit more.
So I just went out here, like this is just sketchfab.com. I just put in Tyrannid. Like somebody has this 3D model of the Tyrannid right here. You can pull it up in your browser.
I think we just got the head. Yeah, it has no body.
Yeah.
So if you find one that has a body that you like better, you could probably use that.
So yeah, you could just rotate this. That's all I did. Just rotated it and then took a screenshot and pulled it in. That'll help solve some of those issues for you if you're having a hard time like turning it around. But with those two edits, then either of these two options are quite good.
I feel like the third one is probably more likely to succeed because you don't have as much foreshortening or interaction between the figures. Like there isn't direct contact, and that always, I think, makes it harder to pull off.
Yeah.
So that would just be my 2 cents. If it was mine, I would go with the third one. But it's really up to you.
Yeah. Okay. Wraps it up on that one.
Thanks, Anthony. I hope that was helpful. Now we have a couple more people.
Allan is next. Allan is also doing the enemies prompt.
Allan, let us know if you're here.
And here, yeah, okay. Got a couple of notes. So with these, across the board, you've given us a good variety. Like this is kind of the over-the-shoulder David and Goliath sort of approach. Low angle, kind of side view, like angle from kind of over the shoulder of the Tyrannid. So the variety is there, but what we're sort of missing is utilizing the space of the canvas.
Oh, Allan is here.
Hey, Allan.
He misread the instructions. and didn't realize that it was vertical until after he was done.
Yeah,
We wondered about that.
yeah. So this one is horizontal, just following the the outline of the challenge. Yeah, we won't be able to go with that unless you can find some way to switch it to vertical. I think there's better options than trying to manhandle this into a different proportion. So let's look at what those are. So this is a big thing for any scene that you do as an illustrator, which is trying to make good use of the canvas area that you have. It's like trying to figure out how to lay out your furniture well for your room, right? It's like, how can I maximize how useful this is? So for this one, there's a couple of things going on, which is there's switching tool. The composition and the lighting really sets what the focus of the image is and conveys that to the viewer. Now, with the composition, one of the big things is what takes up the most space. The thing that is usually the biggest is the thing that is the most important. It is also whether something has been posed to camera or away from camera. So unfortunately, right now, what we've done is we've actually made the Tyranid the focus of the character, and the marine has become the
Kind of like a prop.
yeah,
That's about secondary.
it's become a secondary character to prop up the Tyranid, right? So this character is turned away from us, and he is in shadow, and he is smaller, which means to the viewer, he is not the focal point. So with that, that's why I feel like that's not as effective as it should be, because we really should be highlighting the Space Marine himself instead of the Tyranid. Same sort of thing down here. The idea of coming down with a jetpack, shooting as you're coming down, that's valid, that's cool, like that can be cool. But most of this scene is not the characters. Most of it is background.
I think this could work if the Space Marine were much larger and kind of had a good gesture pose to him.
Yeah.
So if we could really see the limbs doing a strong pose, like he's jumping down from something and he's got, like, you know, guns blazing and a strong kind of jumping gesture.
Mm-hmm.
Actually similar to, you know, something like what Anthony had in his last piece would have been like a mid-air shot.
It's the same thing. It's a mid-air shot, but we've got to be closer to the Tyranid. The Tyranid has to be relegated to the corner, and this guy's got to be taking up like this much space.
So this idea, this concept could have worked, but we would just need to see more of that Space Marine.
And same sort of thing over here. We are just getting a lot more background and the Tyranid than what we need, and the character themselves is getting quite small in the scene.
So we're getting some interesting comments. So Allan says he was really trying to sell the scale of the battle, scariness of the Tyranid, trying to keep the scale of the characters. Space Marine is 8 feet and the monster is 13, which, yeah, we knew it was bigger. Some of them are bigger. Some of them seem to be about the same size. I don't know. I pulled up this image off of Reddit. But in any case, this happens sometimes where we have two elements in a scene, right, where one is much larger than the other one, but the smaller one is actually the focus of the image, right, is what we're supposed to feature. And that was kind of one of the parts of, one of the big challenges of this brief was figuring out a way to give prominence to the smaller character. And what that does to us is it kind of forces us to get closer to the smaller character.
Yeah. This, if you just imagine this scene, and just think about it like you're on a movie set or you're playing with some toys, like we can move this camera closer to this guy so that he would look bigger.
Mhm.
And one of the things that they do a lot is like have the small character here, put the camera low, and the big character is only slightly visually bigger than them, but we're just so much closer to this one that they feel like they take up about the same amount of space. Now, that's the same kind of thinking that I use with this edit. So I feel like you could do something like this.
Like he's really big, he's just farther away.
Yeah.
And we're closer to the Space Marine.
Yeah, so he's still not fitting in frame, even though he's further away, which makes him feel big.
Mhm.
With this guy, this is obviously very rough. I'm just trying to get the basic idea. He's closer now. You put more light on him. So it's got to be a different value scheme than this. We've got to sell that this is the main guy. So we've got to put more light on him. We've got to make sure that this guy is more shadowed to set him back in the secondary position. By repositioning this guy, he can't have his arm straight out, or it'll be off screen. So it can be something like
Just
over his
cutting
head.
the body a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we got to move his arm back over here a little bit. Maybe the legs aren't spread so much into a running pose, but more just like an at the ready pose, bent knees sort of thing. So again, we're just getting the same pieces that you already have, and we're just shifting things around a little bit to try to get focus back on the character. That's what we got there. This can work. This is really cool. This sort of direction can work. Just make sure you're also working with the atmospherics. That is another way you can really give the impression that the Tyranid is further away, and that, wow, at that distance, he's still that big. He must be massive, right? Yeah. Can you guys organize a similar challenge in the future, but more towards concept art work rather than illustration? Yep. Yeah, we'll probably have some concept art challenges coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a couple of ideas, and we'll post about it in the Discord in another week or so.
Yeah. All right, guys. That was Allan. Allan, appreciate it. Thank you for sending your concepts, and your designs down here look nice.
Very nice.
I like this. Yeah. We have one more to take a look at. This is Reese.
Reese, are you here? Let us know.
Okay. I don't see Reese.
Well, there's a delay on
That's true.
the video.
Yeah. Okay, Reese, nice variety. Again, each one of these approaching it a bit different with the enemy's prompt. Yeah, when I mentioned in the prompt, I used the term Crusader overtone. This is more just kind of a Templar Knight sort of vibe
Like a
to it.
vaguely Catholic sort of aesthetic. If
Yeah.
you really think about it, has like those little religious elements, Gothic elements.
I feel like your third guy over here is getting pretty close to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's channeling a bit of that righteous warrior sort of vague religiousness that the 40K has in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, time-wise, I feel like this is where things were getting maybe away from you a little bit. We're getting a lot more developed with the amount of detail, color, rendering, shading, texture and design, all of this stuff, working out like small anatomical issues. We don't really need to spend as much time on that. It would be better to spend more time working out compositional options, making sure that proportions, framing, cropping, all that stuff is as strong as possible. Then the colors and the values can just be kind of block-ins. You know, they don't have to be really well developed. So this is the same sort of issues that we're running into on the last piece, which is the main character, Space Marine, back is towards us. in the shadow and is the smaller of the two characters. Could make for a fine image, but doesn't fulfill the prompt as well as some of the others. So that's why we're going to be looking at the other choices. This one is clear that the Marine is the focal point, but we're running into some issues like, again, this doesn't really feel like a Marine facing off against a Tyranid, but again, kind of a Tyranid surprise attack stalking a Marine. Also want to call out, like here, we're getting a lot of resolution with the weapon and stuff, but we're running into issues with the overall proportions of the body. And we want to just make sure that we're really staying on point. That is one of the things we want to look at in the finals, is that the proportions and the design of the characters are very close to 40K model, right, with that. So down here, like we're not getting enough waist, upper legs aren't enough.
If you're wondering what we're judging it on, I'll just straight up tell you. We watched Miguel Iglesias videos on Space Marines, and he's painted many, many Space Marines and Warhammer art for like the official brand. So we're judging based off of his measurements and what he says are the accurate Space Marine measurements. So if you're wondering what that is, if you haven't seen that yet, you can just search those on YouTube. They're on YouTube.
Yeah, he's got some very good videos on.
It's Miguel Iglesias, and just search that and Space Marine, and it'll come up. And he shows the measurements of them and the exact proportions. So that's where we're getting our proportions from. Yep.
Okay, over here, I really think like this guy's design is working.
This is very cool.
This is cool, yeah. It's just, he's got the thing by the throat, very powerful. I'm just missing a wider view of what's happening here. I feel like we are getting a little too cramped, yeah. So this is where I would come back to looking at Warhammer art. It's like, how do they crop these things? Usually something like this would be pretty much a full body. You don't get a lot of tight crops. Again, like maybe cut it off around the knees. But we want to showcase clearly what's going on in these scenes, right? So with this, we want to do those two things. So we want to look at pulling out on the scene. Next thing we want to do is we want to scale up the Tyranid. Just because he seems pretty small and not a big threat.
And again, I know there's different sizes of them. Please don't hate us, Warhammer fans. But we're just looking at how effective the image can be. And you got this guy that got all dressed up to go fight stuff, and the thing looks really small and not very threatening. So we feel like we want a little bit more from this confrontation. I'm also we're cropped in so tight that I feel like those are wings attached to the Space Marine, but we can't tell because we're too close to everything.
And I don't know, like...
I think some of them might have wings.
Maybe they have wings. I don't know if they're metal. Are they organic? Are they metal? Are they constructed?
I have no idea, but that's something you, as the artist, have to tell us, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, this is a sketch. It's an early phase. We're just mentioning it for your final to make sure that stuff is explicit. But that's one of the things that could be resolved by just pulling out on the character, getting a wider shot so that we can actually see the whole character and what part belongs to what.
No. Something else that we come through with our own commissions is that if something can't be clearly conveyed and isn't crucial for the image, you drop it. So if you end up drawing this for the final and it's not really clear why those wings are there or how they're attached or something, it's better to remove them and make it clearer than put them in and just make it confusing to have them there.
Yeah, just keep that in mind, or at least you might want to change their base color because you got a lot of purple things kind of merging into each other. So just something to think about.
Okay, so I mocked in some of these edits to something like this. So Singai, we're pulling down to about knee level at this point. We have some room for his other arm. I think that's where we have like
You
a
could pull out
sword
even
or
more, you know,
yeah,
if you wanted to.
yeah, you could go more than this as well. Sword or a gun, something's about to execute this Tyrannid, right? And he's getting ready to do that. Tyrannid is way bigger now, feels far more of a threat. Instead of the tail just wrapping around the arm, we're going to just let it wrap all the way around the body, and then it loops back up to the arm, right? So it also makes a Marine feel more powerful. He's holding up this really big alien, right? This is why I'm 50-50 on the wings, because it's going to be so busy with him being bigger and the arm being up. It's like, are we going to be able to convey that
You
or
wouldn't
not?
be able to go around him if there's wings, right? So
That's true.
that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. Like if you really are, you know, gung-ho on those wings, then this composition isn't going to work either.
So let's go forward with this scene, and we really want to have a minimum of this tightness. Like, and you could still go broader than this. Like, if
We
you
could
wanted,
still see like the whole arm and the whole creature.
yeah, you could go up to here. That's fine. We could back it off to there. That's fine. We could go down to mid shin on his body. That's fine. And this scene can work. You will just have to think about what you want to do with the background and how you're going to handle the overall lighting with it. But I don't have any problem with, you know, this being the direction. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. Any questions from anybody? Because that is
Those are the
submissions.
seven submissions.
Yeah. Now again, these artists do have 2 weeks to work on their images and send them back in, and we will have another live stream where we will be reviewing the images and announcing the winners.
I just want to mention also that I meant to add this to the challenge, but I just forgot. If the winner, whoever that may be, is not a gamer or already owns the game, you know, because they love Space Marines so much, you can exchange that prize for a course.
Yeah.
So if you don't, you know, if you don't want to play the game or you already own the game, and you would like one of our self-study courses instead, then, you know, we can do that as well.
Sure. Okay, any other questions from anyone? I know there's a delay, so I'm gonna just let that question ride for a moment. Okay, got a question. How much is important the background for the enemy's submission? I mean, the cathedral wounds are like that. They're not real important. Again, just look at some of the Warhammer art. It's usually not real explicit about kind of where they are.
Wait, look, open this guy here. I mean, where is this guy, right?
Yeah, it's really like dust and battle. You get some things back there. There's a particular one that came to my mind. Where is that?
You could silhouette it. You know?
Yeah, you could have some kind of walls, big windows, archways, sort of thing. Yeah, you can do that.
That's mostly just working with silhouettes back there.
Yeah. You're doing a lot of silhouetting. They don't really get into detailed architecture that much. They pick out like a few points that they resolve a little bit more.
Okay, so a few people are saying their PCs cannot run it. Okay, in that case, yeah, for you guys, if you win the first prize, then, you know, we can exchange that for a class if you'd rather have that.
Mm-hmm. You know, something like that if you want to go that route with it. Or it can be sort of indoor, outdoor, where you're suggesting some buildings in the background, but you're not sure if it's just been blown away most of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like there's just a suggestion of the building back there.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is, no, man, I'm Artemis. I'm completely with you. The amount of AI is getting crazy. I was trying
I
to look
just
for
wish
something
there
on
was a way
Pinterest.
to filter it out, but
Yeah,
there's just we tried all kinds of things and it still comes up.
yeah. If somebody comes out with the non-AI search engine, I think they'll probably be very popular with artists.
Yeah, a search engine that has no AI and the whole first page isn't just ads.
Yeah, and you can't buy sponsored results. I
That
don't
would
know
be
how you
great.
make money on
I
that,
know.
but
Well, not that many, you know. Maybe one per page. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
There's an extension of Blogdom.
oh, can you post the name, Marion?
Clue us in, Marion.
Yes.
Also, you might want to just put it on the
Oh,
Discord
yeah.
because I bet a lot of people would be interested.
We are not in the know.
Yeah, Pinterest is still one of my favorites, but uh, especially with like portraits, trying to find a portrait of somebody,
It used to be
loads
good
of
for
AI.
that. But also, even before it got flooded with AI, I noticed it was just showing me like the same 20 portraits over
Yeah,
and over, and like I can't see any more.
yeah. Okay, so guys, don't forget, going forwards, almost 1 week from now, in 6 days, we're going to be launching the winter signups, the classes. Last time, the character illustration course completely filled up. So we're running 2 groups of character illustration this
Just in
time.
case so nobody gets left out.
Yeah. And uh, I am wanting to put some examples from the stylization class and what the students have been doing in there, a little more about that class. Uh, Guillermo is doing some really great stuff in that class. If you have any interest
I haven't seen anyone
in
else
doing
do
like
it.
stylized art, also really good if you want to get into doing hired to do work in mobile games, casino games. There's a lot of good jobs out there for them. Then please check out Guillermo's class. We approached Guillermo to make this class because we could not find another one that really addressed how to draw in a stylized way. Like, what does that mean? How do you do that without breaking
How do you do that
things?
consistently?
Yeah, how do you look at a property, figure out what its stylization sort of profile is so that you can replicate that on your own stuff? The students are really kicking out some beautiful work, and check that out. He will have feedback available on that one. Okay, and there's not much left on the first page if you block AI. Yeah, that sounds right. Okay. Make a wish. When do you want to print a Swatches Academy art book with all the challenges and best students?
I had not even thought of that.
Challenges with the results, like what the people sent in. Can you clarify that?
I guess that's what he means.
That would be doable if I could get permission from
All these people.
all the people who submitted stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Is this something that people would agree to? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add it into the future courses.
Well, I don't think there were any winners in past challenges. It was just participation.
A long time ago I did.
Oh, did you?
A long time ago I had some, I used to do like top looks.
Oh.
Then we did the one challenge with the NPC characters.
Oh, what's in the studio when I worked there? I think that was
yeah, that was a while ago. That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's been a few of them.
But most of them didn't have any winners.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you're watching this video, if you're interested in getting an art book or almost like a magazine that has full color images of the challenge briefs and the results of what the people made, then leave a comment in the video and let me know. That's something that could be done if there's enough interest to do it.
We did think about doing like a Swatches magazine.
Yeah.
It would be like kind of our version, I guess, of Imagine Effects, but just the stuff that we are interested in. But I don't know. I don't know if people have an appetite for real paper stuff, like
Yeah.
real physical magazines anymore. So anyway, that's something that you guys can let us know about, maybe in the Discord if you're interested in something like that. We could do that, but we just don't want to, like, any one of these things is a big time commitment,
Yes.
and we don't want to, commit a bunch of time to something that nobody wants.
Yeah, that's it. We just have a lot of choices of each of us has a whole list of future classes that we want to still make.
I know people want the environment class. They're still asking me
Yeah.
about it, and I'm so sorry. It's coming, but it's going to be a bit. It's not done.
Can you be in trouble if you publish Warhammer fan art? Well, fan art's always a gray area. I think if you were to, make it clear that this is not official and that it is not endorsed or, sponsored by the company, that does help cover your butt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, I just, from, you can go to any convention and see everywhere, there's
Yeah.
fan art everywhere. Nobody asked permission to do that stuff, right, that I'm aware of. I think for a lot of these companies, it's just not worth their time to pursue someone who's making a couple of bucks. I heard a long time ago, someone told me that it was like 500 units or less, they don't do anything. So
Mhm.
if you sell 500 copies or less of whatever the thing is, they don't really care about it.
Yeah. Oh, they used to be quite strict with the fan art at Games Workshop.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about it. I'm going off of what I heard for other companies, but maybe they are more unforgiving.
Some companies are known for being more strict on that stuff.
Although
Yeah.
we saw people just straight up publishing Harry Potter
Yeah.
Harry Potter art books at Lightbox, with, I'm sure, not having permission to do so, and actually printing the names of the characters, Hogwarts and Harry and Hermione and all that stuff. And so people, I guess, are rolling the dice, but I don't know if we would do that.
Yeah. So going forwards, maybe we won't do as many themed on particular property challenges and maybe more generic. But yeah, that would be fun. We would be interested in doing some sort of magazine or book if there's interest in that.
Yeah. Any ideas that you guys have for things that you would be interested in seeing from us? Like, sometimes we just don't know what people are wanting, or we can't read minds. We don't know what people are thinking. Hey, this would be good, or that would be good, or why don't they do this? Just let us know if you have some great idea that you think we should be doing.
Okay. That's probably a good place to go ahead and wrap it up. Guys, we will catch you again in 2 weeks when we are looking at the finals. Otherwise, the Discord is always open. The community is active out there. If you're wanting to get some pure feedback, that is a good place to post your images and get some feedback from the community. Otherwise, if you want information on any of the classes, feel free to go out to swatchesacademy.com and you can check out all the information out there on that.
Oh, also, do sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already. There might be information of interest. It's kind of like a mini magazine in a way that we're already doing every month. So there might be something of interest to you there.
Okay, thank you again, particularly to all the people who submitted the art, who joined the challenge, who put in the time. We appreciate you putting your art up in front of everybody. It takes some courage to do that. We hope that you took all of the feedback in the most constructive spirit possible. We want to encourage and never discourage anyone, that just want to help equip you to do more effective images. And we hope that everyone finishes their piece for next time. Also, to the couple of people who were not able to do a concept, you are still free to send in a final. We would happy to see anything that you can put together for the final. As Diana mentioned, due to the fairness of the challenge, we won't, consider those for a prize. But we would love to see your work.
It'd still be good to see more artwork.
Yeah.
So, if you didn't have the time to get this ready for this session, at least, put something together if you want to. If you have the time and still want to participate, just go ahead and submit for the final. We'll still look at it.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And we'll catch you next time. Until then, keep drawing. Take care, everybody.